Prabhu, Hare Krishna Arvinda Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Janipal Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Padma Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Vinita Gandharvika Devidasi from Texas College Station.
Hare Krishna Vinita Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Padma Mataji, Your Guru Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharajis, my humble obeisances to you and all the devotees. This is Krishna Kumari Devidasi from Ram.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Kumari Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, all glories to Sri Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj, all glories to Radha Mata. Please accept my humble obeisance to you and respectable Zoom devotees who are present today. I am Charana Lakshmi from Malaysia. Thank you very much and Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, didn't catch your name properly, Mataji. Sorry.
Charana Lakshmi Mataji.
Charana Lakshmi Mataji. Charana Lakshmi Mataji. Please forgive me, Mataji. Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. My humble obeisances to you and all the assembled devotees. This is Susmita from Canada.
Krishna Susmita Mataji. Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. This is Valli from Naperville, Chicago. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Valli Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Padma Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada. This is Shyamaguri.
Hare Krishna Shyamaguri Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Padma Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. This is Vardhana from
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Vardhana Mataji. Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Is there anybody who would like to introduce themselves?
Prabhuji already joined. Okay.
Prabhuji already joined. Okay, Prabhuji. Would you like to start the recording, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji. Record.
Hare Krishna. Again, welcome to Bhakti Sangha conference call. Today we are fortunate to have His Grace Balaram Shakti Prabhu ji for enlightening us on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam 6th canto, 19th chapter, verses 1 to 4 onwards. Hare Krishna Prabhu ji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for giving your valuable association this morning and enlightening us on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhuji. My humble obeisances, Prabhu. Whenever you are ready, please take over the call, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dandavat. Thank you very much. Is my voice audible?
Yes, Prabhu, your voice is audible, Prabhu.
But we can't see you, Prabhu.
Yeah, I am having some technical glitch in my camera. So,
maybe you have to reinstall again Zoom, Prabhuji. That's only the solution.
Yeah. Let me see. Maybe I'll do that. But today I won't be able to switch on my camera. So I
no
will
worries,
try
Prabhuji. No worries.
No worries, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Please go ahead.
Okay. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So thank you all very much for joining today's session. We have, not we, I should not say we, I have not been following every single day the Bhakti Sangha Bhagavatam classes, but you all must have, you're towards the end of completing the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. The last chapter of 6th canto is starting today. So, this chapter is titled as the Pumsavan sacrifice, which is recommended by Kashyapa Muni to his wife Diti, who desires to kill Indra. So last time we saw this story, and I am sure so many devotees every single day would have at least shared the whole story or a part of the story. So we are not going to touch the story at all. So let's start. So the first 3 verses do not have a purport. So the 4th verse has a purport. So we will be reading it, and we will see what we can discuss from today. Okay. So first verse. Shri Raja Uvacha Vratam Pumsavanam Brahman Bhavata Yad Udiritam Tasya Veditum Ichchami Yena Vishnu Prasidati. So Shila, here Parikshit Maharaj is asking Shukadeva Goswami that, my dear Lord, you have already spoken about the Pumsavan sacrifice, that how Kashyapa taught the Pumsavan sacrifice to his wife Diti. You have already spoken about this. Okay. Now, I want to hear about it in detail. For I understand that by observing this vow, one can please the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Therefore, Tasya Veditum Ichchami Yena Vishnu Prasidati. I wish to hear about that Pumsavan vow by which Lord Vishnu can be pleased. So Shukadeva Goswami starts answering this question. So he says, Shukle Marga Shire Pakshe Yoshid Bhartur Anugnaya Arabheta Vratamidam Sarva Kamikamaditah Nishamya Marutam Janma Brahmanan Anumantryacha Snatva Shukladati Shukle Vasitalankritambare Pujayet Pratarashat Prag Bhagavantam Shriyasaha. So Shukadeva Goswami said, on the first day of the bright fortnight of the month of Agrahayana, November, December, following the instructions of her husband, a woman should begin this regulative devotional service with a vow of penance, for it can fulfill all one's desires. Before beginning the worship of Lord Vishnu, the woman should hear the story of how the Maruts were born. Under the instructions of qualified Brahmanas, in the morning she should wash her teeth, bathe and dress herself with white cloth and ornaments, and before taking breakfast she should worship Lord Vishnu and Lakshmi. Then, 4th verse. Alam te nirapekshaya purna kama namostute mahavibhuti pataye namas sakala siddhaye. She should then pray to the Lord as follows. So, the wife should pray to the Lord as follows. My dear Lord, you are full in all opulences. But I do not beg you for opulence. I simply offer my respectful obeisances unto you. You are the husband and master of Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, who has all opulences. Therefore, you are the master of all mystic yoga. I simply offer my obeisances unto you. So this is the prayer one should offer to the Supreme Lord. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that a devotee knows how to appreciate the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he quotes the invocation verse of the Ishopanishad. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the whole, complete whole, is also complete in itself. Because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. So this is the invocation verse of Sri Ishopanishad, and Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse in the purport. So this is how Srila Prabhupada says a devotee knows how to appreciate the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like that. So therefore, to take shelter of the Supreme Lord is required. Whatever a devotee needs will be supplied by the complete Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. Krishna says. Whatever a devotee needs will be supplied by the complete Supreme Personality of Godhead if we take shelter of the Supreme Lord. Nitya abhiyuktanam. Therefore, a pure devotee will not ask anything from the Lord. So what he will do, as the verse says, that therefore you are the master of all mystic yoga, I simply offer my obeisances unto you. Namaha sakala siddhaye. So Prabhupada, commenting on this, he says, he simply offers the Lord his respectful obeisances, and the Lord is prepared to accept whatever the devotee can secure to worship him. Even patram pushpam phalam toyam, a leaf, flower, fruit, or water. Whatever the devotee is willing to offer, the Lord is willing to accept. Prabhupada says, there is no need to artificially exert oneself. It is better to be plain and simple, and with respectful obeisances offer to the Lord whatever one can secure. The Lord is completely able to bless the devotee with all opulences. Okay, so this is the purport. So today there are a few themes. I am not going to discuss the storyline, because storyline would have been discussed many times. So we will directly go to the purport and see what we can, there are some points in the purport we will see. Depending on how much time permits, we will try to discuss on some themes. The first theme that we will try to discuss, which is directly from the purport, which Srila Prabhupada writes, whatever a devotee needs will be supplied by the complete Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what we are going to do is something very simple today. At least the first half of the session, what we are going to do is something very simple. Prabhupada has quoted some verses in the purport. We are going to read what that verse actually says, and what is the context of that verse, and how the Acharyas have explained those verses, in order to fully get a grasp of what Srila Prabhupada is trying to communicate in this purport. So Prabhupada says, whatever a devotee needs will be supplied by the complete Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse, Ananyas chintayanto mam yejana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. 9th chapter, 22nd verse, Prabhupada quotes this verse. So now let us try to understand. Of course, this is the verse in which Krishna says, I will provide everything that the devotee needs. I will provide what he lacks, and I will protect what he already has. So actually, if you see the context of this verse in the 9th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about the karmis who enjoy everything in this material world on the strength of their karma, to the extent of going to Swargaloka and enjoying very extraordinary material pleasures. Traividyamam somapa putapapa yajnairishva swargatim prartayante te punyamasadya surendra lokam ashnanti divyan divideva bhogan. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that Traividya means the knower of the three Vedas. Mam Ishtva, generally this refers to the knowers of the Karmakandiya sections of the Vedas. Mam Ishtva, they worship me indirectly, not directly. How do they worship? Yajnair, through performance of sacrifice. Somapaha, drinking soma, and Puta Papa, and they become purified. Swargatim prartayante, and they pray for attaining Swarga. That is their goal. Okay. punyam asadrya surendra lokam, and attaining punya in the form of the planet of Indra, they ashnanti, they enjoy divyan divideva bhogan. They enjoy in heaven the celestial pleasures of the devas. So these people, on the strength of their punya, they enjoy pleasures which are available even in the Swargaloka, which the demigods get to enjoy. So, but what about the devotees? This question arises. And so here, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explains, those devotees who worship me through these three methods. So three methods are mentioned. Jnana yagyena chapyanye yajanto mam upasate ekatvena prataktvena bahuda vishvato mukam. So in the previous verse, he talks about the Jnana yogis, how they attain liberation. Okay. But then there are these karmakandis. Okay. So he says, but those who follow material karma, they do not become liberated. This is explained in two verses. Those who study and know the three Vedas, Rig, Yajur and Sama, are those who are absorbed in the karmas described in those three Vedas, not knowing that Indra and the other devatas are actually my forms, and consequently worship me indirectly through worshipping these forms. They drink the remnants of the sacrifice and thus attain punya. So at the most they can attain some punya and go to Swarga, enjoy. But Shine punye martyalokam vishanti. After their punya gets over, they will have to come back to the to Bhuloka. So in the next verse he says, Tetam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam shine punye martyalokam vishanti. Evam trayi dharma manuprapanna gatagatam kama kama labante. Tam vishalam swargalokam bhuktva. Having enjoyed the vast pleasures of Swarga, shine punye, and thus exhausting their punya, te martyalokam vishanti. They again come back to Martyaloka, the place where people die, which is Bhuloka. Okay. So, evam trayidharma manuprapanna. In this way, following the path of karma, kama kama, desiring only the objects of material enjoyment, gata agatam labante. They actually go to Swarga, come back, go to Swarga, come back, go to Swarga, come back, like that. They keep on, going into the cycle. Okay. But nevertheless, they get lot of material pleasures, up to Swargiya pleasures, heavenly pleasures. They enjoy. But what about the devotees? Devotees have given up the path of karma. So devotees have given up the path of karma, and Krishna says that performance of devotional service does not generate any karma, which means it does not generate punya also. So how will so if punya is the currency to get enjoyment, so will the devotees be bereft of enjoyment? This question arises. Will the devotees be bereft of enjoyment? So Krishna says, Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nitya abhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. So he says, yoga kshemam vahami aham, vahamyaham. But I carry the burden of yoga, supply, kshemam, maintenance. I carry the burden of supply and maintenance, which means karma does not carry the burden of supply and maintenance, unlike what it does to the ordinary karmis. For the devotees, Krishna says, aham vahami, I carry the burden. Okay. Of whom? Tesham, of those people, nitya abhiyuktanam, of those who desire constant association with me. So these people, their desire is not to go to Swarga and enjoy. Their desire is to is constant association with Krishna. They want a relationship with Krishna. That is what they need. And ye jana, and these personalities or these devotees, ananyaha chintayanto mam, they think only of me. They do not think of they do not think of Swarga, they do not think of the demigods. And pari upasate, they worship only me. So ananyas chintayanto refers to anyabilashita shunyam. And paryupasate refers to jnana karmadi anavritam. Okay. So such people who practice this pure devotional service, who they cannot think of anything else. So generally, what we naturally think of our goal, our most cherished goal. That's what we naturally think of. So ananyas chintayanto mam refers to these devotees consider Krishna as their goal, which means the goal of their life is to establish a relationship with Krishna. Okay. And how do they wish to attain it? Pari upasate, by complete worship. Complete worship means what? Worship that is not covered by jnana, karma, yoga, etc. Pari means complete. Upasate means to worship. Pari upasate means completely worship Krishna, which means by the process which is not covered by jnana, karma, yoga, etc. Which means jnana, karma, the anavritam. So by those devotees who are anyabilashita shunyam jnana karma dyanavritam anupulyena krishnanushilanam, and to such devotees Krishna says yoga kshemam vahami aham, I carry the burden of supply and maintenance. Because by such a worship they desire tesham nitya abhiyuktanam. By such worship they desire constant association with me, like that Krishna says. So, in the purport, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, he says that, on the other hand, the happiness of my Ananya Bhaktas is given by me. It is not obtained by pious acts. So, happiness or distress, suffering of devotees is not according to karma. That we have already discussed in detail. The happiness experienced by devotees is also not according to karma. That is given by Krishna. They are at all times well versed in matters concerning me and are always ignorant of all other things. Nitya abhiyuktanam. Or the phrase can mean that they constantly desire to be in my association. They have a desire to constantly be in the association of Krishna. For such persons, I take care of their attainment of wealth, yoga, and their maintenance, kshemam, even though they do not expect such things, because they are anyabilashita shunyam. They do not expect such things. But just because they do not expect, it's not that I do not provide them. I provide them with whatever they need. So he says, it would be unsuitable for the Lord simply to say that he performs these acts, or he gets them performed. So he uses the word vahami, meaning carry is used. Okay. So carry means what? The use of the word vahami indicates that the Lord bears the burden of maintaining their bodies in the manner that the householder takes the responsibility for maintaining his own wife and children. Right? So the Lord takes personal responsibility. Or rather, the Lord feels responsible. The Lord is responsible for the maintenance of this whole universe. But the Lord feels responsible for maintaining and protecting his own devotees. There is a sense of feeling responsible. Just like, The owner of a company may be responsible for the running of the company, but when it comes to, he personally feels responsible when it comes to maintaining his own family. Like that, the Supreme Lord, even though he is responsible for every single thing in this material world or in the spiritual world, but when it comes to devotees, he feels responsible. Oh, I am personally responsible for this. Like that. Um, thus, one should not say that, like others, their attainment or preservation of bodily needs is due to karma. So the attainment or preservation of the bodily needs of devotees is not due to karma. It is directly taken care of by Krishna, because Krishna wants to take care of this. But someone may question Krishna. Someone may question Krishna. Well, Krishna, still, since you are Atma Rama, you are self-satisfied, completely enjoying within and indifferent to all things as a Supreme Lord, where is the question of your bearing responsibility? So where is the question of your responsibility? You are Atma Rama. You are completely self-satisfied. Why would you feel responsible for the devotees? Why would you feel responsible for the devotees? Right? So this question arises. So we were discussing probably in this forum or some other forum, like the Shastras say that the Supreme Lord is Atma Rama. Okay. On one hand, when talking about the Lord, the Shastras say that he is Atma Rama, self-satisfied. Okay. But on the other hand, the Shastras also talk about the Lord to be satisfied by bhakti. Bhaktya tutosha Bhagavan Gajayutapaya. The Lord is satisfied by bhakti. Like that, it is mentioned. So now the question is, if the Lord is self-satisfied, if that statement is right, then he does not need anything external to satisfy him. Then the statement that the Supreme Lord is pleased by bhakti cannot be true, because he is self-satisfied. Because if he is satisfied by bhakti, then his self-satisfied nature will be challenged. On the other hand, if you say that the Lord is actually pleased by bhakti, then is he really Atma Rama, self-satisfied? That question arises. So how do you reconcile? Which of these statements is right? Srila Jiva Goswami in his Bhakti Sandarbha says, actually both statements are right. But is there a contradiction? Srila Jiva Goswami says, no, there is no contradiction. How? He says, bhakti is very much a part of Krishna's self. Bhakti is very much a part of Krishna's self. So, it is a part of his internal energy. Okay. So when someone is self-satisfied, it's not that his self definitely gives him satisfaction. And what constitutes Krishna's self? Bhakti is a very integral part of Krishna's self. Okay. And that Antaranga Shakti, or the internal potency of Krishna, when it touches the Jiva, then it transforms into what is called as bhakti, and it pleases the Lord. But what is pleasing him is his own Antaranga Shakti transformed, his own self. The example that is given is that a flute player, a flutist, when he plays the flute, he is actually blowing his own air into the flute. He is blowing his own air into the flute. But when the air enters the flute and comes out in the form of a very beautiful sound, That sound pleases the flutist. But what is pleasing him is his own air only. So in the same way, the Krishna's internal energy is like the air. The jiva is the flute. Krishna is the flute player. When he blows his internal energy into the flute of jiva, beautiful melodious sounds in the form of bhakti comes out and it pleases Krishna. So Krishna is pleased by his own self. So therefore, Atma Rama, he is self-satisfied and he is satisfied by bhakti. There is no contradiction there. So someone may say, oh, you are Atma Rama, you should be indifferent to everything. Where is the question of your bearing responsibility for the devotees? This seemingly challenges your Atma Rama nature, I feel. Someone may say. So the Shruti says, Bhaktir asya bhajanam tad iha amutropadi nairasyena amushmin manah kalpanam etad eva naishkarmyam. Bhakti is worship of the Lord, concentrating the mind on Him, renouncing all material desires for enjoyment in this world. In this world and the next, it destroys all karma, says Gopal Tapani Upanishad. So he says, because my Ananya devotee has no karma due to lack of desire, his happiness is given by me. Even though I am indifferent to all else, I have great affection for my devotee. Even though I am indifferent to everything else, I have great affection for my devotee. Why? My devotee bears a part of myself. What is that? The seed of bhakti. That seed of bhakti is Krishna's internal energy. So therefore, that does not, otherwise Krishna is neutral to all the jivas. What is it that distinguishes a devotee from ordinary jiva? That devotee possesses a part of Krishna's self. That moves Krishna from the neutral zone to the zone of affection. That affection is because the devotee possesses a part of his own self. And Krishna is Atma Rama. Okay. So this is the cause. This is the cause. One should also not say that in giving the burden of their maintenance to their worshipable Lord, the devotees show lack of prema. So someone may say, what kind of a devotee are you? You are giving your burden of maintenance to Krishna. We are not here to take service from Krishna. We are here to serve Krishna. How can you allow the Supreme Lord to maintain you? I mean, this is natural Vaishnava mode. Right? We see in the case of when Raghunath Das Goswami was so absorbed in his bhajan, and one tiger came. And Krishna had to protect Raghunath Das Goswami from the tiger by holding a stick. And another time when Raghunath Das Goswami was doing his bhajan, the sun was just completely beating down on his head, and Srimati Radharani had to personally come and hold her pallu over his head to protect him from that heat. And when Sanatana Goswami saw this, he said, this is not right. We are not here to take service from Krishna. We are here to serve Krishna. You build yourself a bhajan kutir. Don't put our lordships to your service. Like that, he chastised him. So, so this is natural devotee mood. How could you take service from Krishna? But then Krishna says, no, please don't take my service away from me. So Krishna says, in fact, they do not give me that burden. Rather, I, by my own will, accept it. I want to accept it. Please don't take my treasure away from me. My only treasure is my service to my devotees. like that Krishna feels. It should also be understood that I am not bearing it as a duty. No, I am not doing it as a duty in the manner that I create and maintain the universe by my will alone. Rather, being attached to my devotees, I take the greatest pleasure in taking care of their needs, like carrying the weight of one's lover. So when a husband carries one's lover or wife, it gives him great pleasure. She might be, if he has to carry a bag of rice, which is even 1/4 that weight, he would like sweat and, he would probably engage mm, a coolie or someone to pick up that rice bag. But his wife is weighing 4 times that weight. He's very happy to lift. Why? Because of that affection. Because of that affection. So he says, look, please don't interfere. Krishna says, don't interfere. Don't take something which I take great pleasure. I take great pleasure in personally fulfilling the needs of my devotees. Why you are taking it away from me? I am not doing it as a duty. This gives me great pleasure. Like that. So this is the purport to this particular verse by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Srila Prabhupada gives a slightly different insight into this particular verse. Srila Prabhupada says that one who is unable to live for a moment without Krishna consciousness cannot but think of Krishna 24 hours a day, being engaged in devotional service by hearing, chanting, remembering, offering prayers, worshipping, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, rendering other services, cultivating friendship, and surrendering fully to the Lord. Such activities are all auspicious and full of spiritual potencies, which make the devotee perfect in self-realization, so that his only desire is to achieve the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tesham nitya abhiyuktanam. Such a devotee undoubtedly approaches the Lord without difficulty. This is called yoga. Yoga kshemam vahamyaham. So Prabhupada explains yoga as approaching the Supreme Lord for a union, as in yuj, right? So this is called yoga. He, without difficulty, he attains it. How? By the mercy of the Lord. Such a devotee never comes back to this material condition of life. Kshema refers to material protection of the Lord. So Prabhupada defines yoga kshema as yoga as union with Krishna, and kshema has material protection. Vahami aham. Krishna says, I take personal responsibility for the devotee attaining my lotus feet, and while he is in the material world, material protection. So protection from the material condition of life, I take personal responsibility for that, Krishna says. So he says the Lord helps the devotee to achieve Krishna consciousness by yoga, and when he becomes fully Krishna conscious, the Lord protects him from falling down to a miserable condition of life. This is kshema. Yoga kshemam vahami aham. So this is what is the first theme. Prabhupada quotes this verse also, that when he says that whatever a devotee needs will be supplied by the complete Supreme Personality of Godhead. Complete why? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Like that. So that is the first thing that Srila Prabhupada says. And then Srila Prabhupada says, oh, the Lord is prepared to accept whatever the devotee can secure to worship him. This is the next point that Srila Prabhupada says in the purport. Whatever. So in return, what should the devotee do? What should the devotee do so that the Lord feels obliged? The Lord feels so attached to you know, take responsibility of the devotee's maintenance. What should the devotee do? What is the verse that Srila Prabhupada quotes in the purport for this? The Lord is prepared to accept whatever the devotee can secure to worship him. What is the verse that Srila Prabhupada quotes in the purport? Anyone knows? Anyone knows in this purport what is the verse that Srila Prabhupada quotes? It's there in the purport. Someone can tell. Yes, Shiva Kumar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, is that the Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Prabhu?
Yeah, thank you. Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachati. Tadaham Bhakti Upahritam Ashnami Prayatatmana. See, it's so easy to please the Lord. Just offer Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. So, here, in the purport of this particular verse, Srila Prabhupada quotes this. Therefore, a pure devotee will not ask anything from the Lord. He simply offers the Lord his respectful obeisances, and the Lord is prepared to accept whatever the devotee can secure to worship him, even Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam, a leaf, flower, fruit, or water. Okay. Now, let's again, all we are doing is, we are not doing anything. We are, the two verses that Srila Prabhupada has quoted, we are going to read what the Acharyas have commented on this verse, just a little elaboration to get a deeper insight of Srila Prabhupada's purport today. Okay, so this is the verse again, which comes 4 verses after Ananyas Chintayan Tomam, which is Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachati Tadaham Bhakti Upahritam Ashnami Prayatatmanaha. So 9.22 is Ananyas Chintayan Tomam, 9.26 is Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. In between you have 23, 24, 25 which talks about demigod worship. Ye Pyanya Devata Bhakta Yajanto Yajante Shraddhayan Vita Tepi Mameva Kaunte Yajante Avidhi Purvakam. Like that, those series of verses where Krishna is talking about demigod worship. So, in order to establish how worshipping the Supreme Lord is so easy, in order to establish that point, actually Krishna quotes this verse, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachati Tadaham Bhakti Upahritam Ashnami Prayatatmanaha. So he says, Tad Aham Ashnami. Ashnami literally means eat, but here it means accepting. Okay, so it means accepting. I accept Bhakti Upahritam, that which is offered with love or devotion. Prayatatmanaha, from the genuine devotee having pure body and mind. So this is a very important verse. He says, what will inspire Krishna to accept that which is being offered? He says, Bhakti Upahritam, that which is offered with love from the genuine devotee who has pure body and mind. Prayatatmanaha. Yome Bhaktya Prayachati, who gives with devotion. Patram, he may give a small leaf. Pushpam, a small flower. Phalam, a small fruit. Or Toyam, water. Whatever he may give. So in the purport, Srila Vishwanath Jagadakur says, for the worshippers of the Devatas, there is extreme trouble. But this is not so for my devotees. For the worshippers of Devatas, there are so many things that needs to be done perfectly, properly. But worshipping Krishna is so easy. So in this verse, the word Bhaktya in the instrumental case literally means by the devotional process. But then with the next phrase, again the word Bhakti comes. Bhakti Upahritam, offered by the process of Bhakti. There would be unnecessary but then with the next phrase, Bhakti Upahritam, there would be unnecessary repetition. Why Bhaktya Bhakti 2 times is given? Already Bhaktya means devotion is understood, right? So why again Bhakti Upahritam offered with devotion? With devotion, by the devotional process, with devotion, why it should be there? So he says, the sentence would read, I accept that which is offered by devotion from whomever offers by devotion. So this seems like this is a repetition. Why twice this bhaktya by devotion, why two times it comes? So he says, thus the word bhaktya in this verse should mean bhaktya sahitaha, indicating in this sentence a person endowed with genuine devotion, the real devotee. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavritam anukulyena krishnanushilam. Genuine devotee. So he says, thus the meaning should be, I accept that which is offered with bhakti from the real devotee, even if he gives just a leaf, flower, fruit or water. I accept that which is offered with bhakti from the real devotee. Real devotee means Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavritam. Thus, so in order to make it little bit more clear, he says, thus I do not accept what is offered by persons who are not my devotees, who have only some temporary spurt of devotion. That is why the word bhaktya comes twice. They may have some temporary spurt of devotion, but they are not bhaktya. It is not bhaktya sahita. They are not genuine devotees. But whatever my devotee gives, I enjoy it in a suitable way. Ashnami. And what type of offering is it? He says, he does not offer it because someone told him to offer it, but he gives it out of love. Bhakti upahritam. Out of love he gives. But if my devotee has an impure body, I do not accept even that offering. If he has an impure body means he must have a pure body, which is ritually pure body, right? At least for Vaidhi sadhakas, you should take bath, brush your teeth, and cook with clean body. You cannot say, oh, ultimately Krishna is bhavagrahi, so even if I don't take bath and I offer, Krishna will accept because he accepts devotion, right? So here the word prayatatmanaha. Prayata atmanaha. So the word atma can refer to body and the word atma can refer to mind. So prayatatmanaha refers to pure body or pure mind, which means this excludes persons from offering during menstrual cycle or with other impurities. It is not the best way of offering because you don't want to offer something which is impure to the Supreme Lord. However, the word prayata atmanaha can also mean a person with pure mind, which means no one except my devotee has a pure mind. So pure mind here refers to pure faith. Okay. As Parikshit says, Dhautatma Purushaha Krishna Pada Moolam na Munchati. A pure devotee of the Lord whose heart has once been cleansed by the process of devotional service never relinquishes the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, for they fully satisfy him as a traveler is satisfied at home after a troubled journey. Mukta Sarva Pariklesha Pantaha Swasharanam Yata. Like that. So, this is Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachati. So you may say, no, pure mind. Why you are beating around the bush? Pure mind means there should be no lust, anger, envy, greed, illusion, pride, no anarthas. Only that is pure mind, which means when we sadhakas offer anything to Krishna, Krishna does not accept because our mind is filled with lust, anger, envy, greed, illusion and pride. Krishna will not accept because prayatatmanaha means pure mind. We don't have a pure mind. One may say like this. So here Krishna, Shri Vishnu Jagadagu clarifies. He says, the sign of their purity is the fact that they cannot give up the service to my lotus feet. Even if there is a trace of lust or anger, it is insignificant, like the bite of a toothless snake. There may be such things, as Krishna says, apichet suduracharo, vajate mam ananya bhak, sadureva samantavya samyak vyavasito hisaha. So he should be considered as a sadhu, he says. Right. So, so this is the second theme. Actually, what we have done is the two themes that Srila Prabhupada has mentioned in the purport by quoting two of these verses. The Lord is prepared to accept whatever the devotee can secure to worship him, and he quotes Patram Pushpam Pushpam Phalam Toyam, even if it may be as simple as that. We have just gone into that verse and tried to understand a little bit more deeply what that verse actually is communicating here. And also, the Ananyas Chintayanto Mam, how Krishna personally takes care of his devotees, he provides him with what he needs. And the third point that Srila Prabhupada says, for which we will not have sufficient time today, is Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, there is no need to artificially exert oneself. It is better to be plain and simple. Simple living, I thinking, don't exert too much to provide everything to the Supreme Lord. Without exerting yourself, be plain and simple. There are many meanings, or there are many explanations given to what is simple living, high thinking, or plain living, plain and simple living. Oftentimes one understanding is that, okay, go and live in the farms. That is plain living, simple thinking. You will have all the time needed to actually think of Krishna. But what does it mean to not artificially exert oneself? Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his book called as Bhaktya Loka, which is an elaboration or illumination on the second and third verses of Nectar of Instruction, the 6 favorable and 6 unfavorable things. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha laulyam cha shadbir bhaktir vinashyati. The 6 unfavorable things and 6 favorable things. Utsahan nischayat dairyat tatsat karma pravartanat sangatyagat sato vritte shadbir bhaktir prasidhyati. So the 6 favorable, 6 unfavorable things in talking. He has written one essay and all these things. And he writes prayas, over endeavoring, which is what Srila Prabhupada is writing here. No need to artificially exert oneself. It is better to be plain and simple. What does it mean to be plain and simple and not artificially exert oneself? In this essay on prayas, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur very clearly mentions. Of course, we will not have time to cover the whole essay. I will just quickly try to, touch upon some very salient points. So he says, if prayas is not given up, devotion will never arise. The word prayas means endeavor. Endeavor means what? Useless labor. So now, okay, useless labor is a very generic thing. So we have to define what is useless, what is useful. So he says, very deep explanation Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives. He says, spiritual life is nothing other than pure devotion unto the Supreme Lord. That is spiritual life. Devotion cannot be defined by any symptoms other than full surrender and subordination unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So what are the symptoms of devotion? He says, Sharanagati. The limbs of Sharanagati should be there. Anukulyasya sankalpo pratikulyasya varjanam, accepting whatever is favorable, rejecting whatever is unfavorable, and so on. Those 6 limbs. So he says, full surrender and subordination are the natural, eternal, constitutional duties of the living entity. Therefore, only devotional service is the natural propensity of the inherent occupation. So he says, prayas means what? First, understand what is the constitutional position of the jiva. Okay, because that is the natural position of the jiva. So the natural activity of the jiva is what? Devotional service. Jivera swarup hoy Krishnera nityadas. So serving Krishna is the natural duty of the jiva. Anything other than that is prayas. That is the explanation of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He says, and that is what here Srila Prabhupada says, there is no need to artificially exert oneself. Artificially exerting oneself means what? It means engaging in activities which are artificial to the soul. What is artificial to the soul? Karma, jnana, yoga, everything is artificial to the soul. And whole materialistic life, whether you live it in a Vedic material way or a non-Vedic material way, it is foreign to the soul. So the moment a person realizes his constitutional position as the soul and his constitutional duty as devotional service, any other endeavor other than that is artificially exerting oneself. It is not considered to be plain and simple living. That is the essence of this essay that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains. So he says, in one's inherent occupation, there is no need of prayers. Still, and what is this inherent occupation? Devotional service. Once refer to the soul's inherent occupation, there is no need of prayers. Still, in the living entity's conditioned state, there is need for a small amount of prayers in order to cultivate devotional service. He says, look, the jiva's natural dharma is to perform devotional service. So there is no need for exertion. Ideally, there should be no exertion. There should be no need for exertion for the jiva. But in the conditioned state, the jiva needs little exertion because he is conditioned. Right? Just like water will naturally flow, but when put inside a refrigerator, it cannot exhibit its natural dharma. So there should be little prayas. What is that prayas? You should keep that water from the refrigerator or the freezer outside for a while. So if it remains in the ambient temperature for a while, it will melt and it will naturally show its inherent nature. So therefore, the living entity does not have to exert anything to perform bhakti, but in the conditioned state, because he is in a artificial state, he has been in an artificial state for a very long time. So therefore, there must be some exertion, but that exertion is not considered to be prayas or useless endeavor. So he says that except for this little prayas, all other kinds of prayas are unfavorable for devotional service, which means whatever we have to do to engage in devotional service, that we should do. Everything else is useless endeavor. And now he says prayas is of two kinds, jnana prayas and karma prayas. In jnana prayas, the feeling of oneness or kevaladvaita arises. So jnana prayas means covering one's bhakti with the elements of jnana, So either aspiring for the sayujya as a goal or the path of jnana as a means to attain that goal, all of that. And he quotes many verses from the Shastras, Nayamatma pravachanena labhyo namedayana bahuna shrutena. One cannot attain the Supreme Lord by any endeavor of, jnana, studying, hearing, explanations and all that. It is possible only by the mercy of the Lord. And then he quotes Brahmaji's famous verse, Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva, and so on. Stane stita shrutigatam tanuvan manobir ye prayasho ajita jitopyasitai srilokyam. So only by practicing devotional service, one can understand Krishna, not by this endeavor of jnana prayas, and so on. He quotes many verses like that. So now one may say, oh, then does it mean we should stop hearing Srimad Bhagavatam right now? So that question arises. So he says, glorification of the knowledge of one's relationship with the Lord is often heard. that knowledge is pure and spontaneous. There is no need of prayas. Okay, because the souls in its natural constitutional state, uh, it very much knows and appreciates the knowledge of one's own relationship with the Lord. So that is not prayas, that is not dhyana prayas. The knowledge given in the Chatushloki, the four main Bhagavatam verses, is Achintya Beda Bed, inconceivably simultaneous, one and different. This knowledge is naturally dormant in the heart of the living entity. So this is natural knowledge. So to acquire this knowledge is not prayas. This is not dhyana prayas. Okay. Many times people say, Are, you want to keep hearing Bhagavatam. You don't want to do practical service. This is the path of jnana. This is not the path of bhakti. I mean, I would say this is oversimplification. This is not correct. This is actually oversimplification because that knowledge is not jnana prayas. Okay. Okay. So now I will have to start skipping things. Anyways. So, and then he says that the living entity cannot remain in his constitutional form without being subordinate to the Lord. Therefore, servitorship of the Lord is his constitutional duty. So, cultivation of this constitutional duty is the nature of the living entity. This is the spontaneous, devoid of prayas, dharma, or duty of the living entity. So, cultivating servitude to Krishna, because servitude to Krishna is a natural, spontaneous dharma of the jiva, but in its conditioned state, this is not being, in its conditioned state, it is not being done. It becomes unnatural. It seems unnatural. But to engage the living entity again in that particular activity is not prayas. Okay. So let's skip a few things and then he says, and if jnana prayas is renounced in the association of devotees, then that is a devotional endeavor. He says to give up unfavorable prayas is in itself devotional service. It's a devotional endeavor, like that. And then he quotes verses from Bhagavad Gita 12th chapter where Krishna very clearly says, Klesho adhikataras tesham avyaktasakta chetasam. You know, this jnana prayas is actually very difficult because it is not constitutional to the soul and so on. And then he talks about karma prayas. Karma prayas, he talks about, you know, the path of karma yoga, varnashrama dharma, without properly understanding the role of bhakti. That is also karma prayas, and he says that is also very contrary to the devotional principles, just like dhyana prayas. So he says, but a devotee who desires to properly pass his life still accepts his duties according to varnashrama, as those duties are favorable to devotional service and counted as part of devotional service. So if you accept certain limbs of varnashrama in the mood of anukulyasya sankalpo, if it is anukul for my bhakti, I will accept. If it is pratikul for my bhakti, I will reject. In that mood, when some of the limbs of varnashrama are accepted, then that is, those limbs are no longer limbs of varnashrama, they become limbs of bhakti. So he says all these activities are no longer called karma. They are not called as karma. Okay. So he says that, okay, then he explains a few things. I will not get into the details. So then he talks about Ashtanga Yoga prayas is also unfavorable for bhakti. Like that he says. Then further he says that the hard labor for activities like visiting holy places is prayas, that is unfavorable for devotional service. He says going to Tirtha Yatra is prayas, unfavorable for devotional service. Why? Because what is the mood of Tirtha? Yes, Tirtha Buddhi Salilena Karhichid. Tirtha Buddhi means, oh, I will go. I have been very sinful, so I will go to this holy place and I will take bath in this holy river and wipe out all my sins. So that kind of Tirtha Yatra, visiting holy place, is prayas, means unfavorable endeavor. If, however, okay, he clarifies, if, however, one goes to the places of Krishna's pastimes with a greedy desire to awaken his ecstatic love for Krishna and to associate with the devotees, then this is certainly devotional service, not useless prayers. Gaura Amar Jesabastane Koralo Brahmana Range, Tesabastana Heribo Ami Pranayi Bhakata Sange. With this mode, if one goes for Tirtha Yatra, greedy to see those places of Krishna's pastimes and with a desire to awaken the ecstatic love for Krishna and to associate with great saintly people, that is not prayas. That is very favorable. That is not useless prayer. And then following the vows of devotional service is not useless prayers. They are all accepted as part and parcel of devotional service. Okay. The prayas for serving the Vaishnavas is not prayas. For greed to associate with one's own peers destroys the faults in the form of desires to associate with other worldly minded people. So eagerness, endeavoring to associate with devotees, serve the devotees, it's not useless prayers. This is natural. The prayas for temple worship is a spontaneous manifestation of the heart's emotions. The prayas for activities like Sankirtan is only meant to open one's heart to chanting the Lord's holy names. It is therefore extremely natural. Therefore, it is not prayas. Even though we may not have taste for chanting right now, that is because of our conditioning. But we know that the natural propensity of the soul there is Namagane Sadaruchi. Okay, so that is very favorable prayers, and one should certainly do it, and so on. And then he says there need not be any specific endeavor for renunciation, separate endeavor. There is no need for prayas in renunciation, vairagya prayas, because when devotion to Krishna arises in the heart, the living entity naturally becomes disinterested in anything other than Krishna. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitah Janayatyashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahaitukam, like that. Okay. So in this way he says Jnana prayas, Karma prayas, Yoga prayas, Mukti prayas, as well as over endeavoring for material enjoyment, worldly achievements, associating with materialistic people are all hostile principles for one who has taken shelter of the holy name. One should not engage in all these things. And then finally, he says that even if one may give up all other prayas, the prayas for attaining pratishtha or fame is the lowest of all kinds of prayas, and it may be the most difficult to give up. Although it is the lowest, it is unavoidable for many. And that should also be given up by the simple process of devotional service. That is the essence that he says. He quotes many verses for this. Okay. And then finally, he gives how these principles are applied for householders and renunciants. Okay. So he says, making varnashram favorable to devotional service, the householder should pass his life engaged in devotional service free from prayas. Free from prayas means free from karma prayas, jnana prayas, yoga prayas, vairagya prayas, and so on. And whatever is favorable for of the varnashram duties, whatever is favorable for bhakti, he may accept those principles. He says then they should earn and save only to easily maintain the family members. Okay. If they always remember that worshipping Hari is the only purpose of life, then they will never fall into illusion. So they will remember, their goal should be very clear. It's always to worship Lord Hari. Okay. In happiness and distress, in good fortune and bad, in waking and sleep, in every condition, worshipping Hari will quickly be perfected. And okay, so this is, so he should earn and save to easily maintain the family members. Beyond that is prayers. And the renunciant means Babajis. Okay, they should not save at all. he should maintain his body by daily begging alms and thus engaging in devotional service. They should not stay in any enterprise. Enterprise means business kind, I will teach you devotional service, you give me money, or these kind of things are not recommended for renunciates. By entering into enterprise, he is at fault. The more he worships the Lord with humility and simplicity, the more he will understand Krishna by his mercy. Okay. And then the generic mood is, tattenu kampam susamikshamano bunjana evatmakritam vipakam hridvag vapurbir vidadan namaste jivetayo mukti pade sadaya bhak. This is the key verse for simple living, high thinking. This is what, see, anything, whatever I am suffering is due to my own misdeeds, but still the Lord is so compassionate upon me. Therefore, with my hridvag vapurbir vidadan namaste, with my heart, with my words, and with my body, I constantly offer obeisances to Krishna. Jivetayo, one who lives his life in this way, accepting everything as Krishna's mercy, he becomes mukti pade sadaya bhak. He becomes the rightful inheritor for the abode of the Lord, like that. Anyways, so I think we will pause here, and we will take some time for some discussion. So any quick discussion points, comments, questions, anything anyone would like to share, ask, you can please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for such an enlightening class with just Krishna wants just our sincere devotion to him, just palam patram pushpam, that thing, and other thing also, like not over endeavoring for work, just to do whatever minimum necessary to maintain the life and be thinking of him and praying, doing the chanting with thinking about him. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Dear devotees, if you have any questions, please go ahead. I think I see Shivakumar Prabhuji raised hand. Please go ahead, Prabhuji, with asking questions.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat pranams. Thank you for a very insightful class today, Prabhu. Prabhu, one question from today's class, Prabhu. On the Yoga Kshema Mahamyaham, I kind of heard this message from few classes that it primarily means the consciousness. Krishna protects the consciousness, but not necessarily the material situation or circumstance. So I just wanted to hear from you, Prabhu, as to how should we look at that? Yeah,
Krishna protects the consciousness, but basically here it means he provides what the devotee needs to attain perfection. Sometimes it may mean protection of physical body also. Sometimes it may refer to protecting the external surroundings also. Sometimes it may mean wealth. Sometimes it may mean one's consciousness. Whatever is needed, Krishna protects. It's not that he protects only consciousness and allows the body to be taken care of by karma. No. Body also he takes care. Consciousness also he takes care. But takes care means what? Only to the extent that it is needed for him to achieve perfection of his goal. Like that.
Okay. Thank you. Prabhu, also one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I muted you. Can you please raise your hands again, Prabhu? Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes. So one more question, Prabhu. I could not attend your last class. I was just listening to it offline. I had this one question, Prabhu. You were talking about the who, why, and how the modes affecting these three aspects.
Prabhuji, before you ask that question, there are others. Can we first take their questions regarding today's class and then we will get back? Is that okay?
Sure.
Yes, Sukhakar Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Balaram Prabhu, your class is always thought-provoking. So this was what you told today. Can we relate that anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulya varjanam? By doing that, automatically you achieve all these things.
Yeah. Yes.
That's just wanted to know.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Jyoti Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Danvat Pranam Prabhuji.
Hello.
Prabhuji, my question is, from where you have explained what the class that you have explained, the book or where it is mentioned, could you please name the book?
The name of the book is Bhaktya Loka by Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur.
Okay. And the second question is, say a person is already in devotion and having 2-3 years of experience and trying to preach. So there is a situation where the preaching is not happening. So is that preaching also a obstacle in the advancement or in the pure devotion? Because I'm not able to understand what is the pure devotional service and the difference between Krishna, that and Krishna consciousness. What exactly is the basic difference? That I wanted to know, Prabhu.
Well, Krishna consciousness, what Srila Prabhupada mentions as Krishna consciousness, what Prabhupada means is pure devotional service. So pure devotional service means Anya Bilashita Shunyam Jnana Karma Dhyanavritam Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhaktirottama. So having no other goal other than the desire to please Krishna and trying to attain that goal by no other means other than Shravanam, Kirtanam, the Navada Bhakti. So that is pure devotional service. So if one is practicing that, then he is in Krishna consciousness and he is practicing pure devotional service.
And the preaching itself can be an obstacle in bhakti or advancement. Can you share something on this, Prabhuji?
I mean, why would preaching be an obstacle in one's advancement? He's trying to spread Krishna's message. Krishna will be pleased. So why would that be an obstacle?
Say some certain circumstances that he is not able to chant or not able to cope out with the situation, even though he is a preaching. So is that an obstacle for his advancement or his devotion towards Krishna?
Well, in devotional service, one needs mature guidance to know, there are many principles which are favorable to Krishna consciousness, but there is always a hierarchy of those principles. Is chanting favorable? Yes. Is worshipping the deity favorable? Yes. Is preaching favorable? Yes. But all of these things are favorable, but there is a time for chanting, there is a time for deity worship, there is time for preaching. So what is the hierarchy of these various principles? What can be sacrificed at what cost? What cannot be sacrificed at any cost? And what takes a higher precedence? What takes a lower precedence? For that we need mature guidance. So can sometimes chanting be sacrificed at the cost of preaching? Maybe, if a mature devotee is guiding us that way. Sometimes can preaching be sacrificed so that we can properly chant our 16 rounds? Yes, if that is what is the guidance of a mature advanced devotee. So ultimately, there may be multiple principles which are favorable for devotional service, but one needs proper mature guidance to understand at that particular circumstance what takes precedence over what, like that.
Okay, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna and Danvat Pranam to you. I have one question. If you could locate the answer, there are the steps in purity. I have got those points, but I needed an explanation. Could you locate where I'll get the answer for this? The purity that we need to develop in Krishna consciousness or the practice, the levels of the purity.
I didn't understand your question properly. Maybe we could.
Okay, Prabhuji. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Preeti Vilasini Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for the very, very nice class, as always. This is on behalf of another devotee, the question. When you were speaking about the incident of Raghunath Das Goswami and Lord Krishna, Radharani coming and protecting Raghunath Das Goswami, you did mention that the Lord does it out of love and affection for his devotee, and he doesn't have any pain in doing it. So we understand this for devotees who are very sincere and who are engrossed in bhakti. But the question is where to draw a line, like for practicing devotees like ourselves. Sometimes I'm just giving this example. It could be any example, but if supposing a person is not well, and there could be an opinion that it's okay, take a medicine and continue to chant, while there could be another opinion where, oh, just keep chanting and surrender to Krishna, and that will take care of everything. So when we take the second route, isn't it making Krishna serve you, like you said, right? It is not about making Krishna serve one person, because Krishna loves to do it. So now, under such circumstances, is Krishna, are we expecting Krishna to serve us, or Krishna will still love to do this? So that's the question.
Okay, there are two aspects to this question, the way I see it. One thing is, if the first aspect, as I understand it, is if Krishna, if the suffering and happiness of the devotees is given by Krishna, orchestrated by Krishna, should we even endeavor to address, where let's say I get fever, I'm a devotee, so who gave me fever? Krishna. So should I go to a doctor and deal with it, or should I just tolerate it, and because Krishna has given it? So yes, Krishna orchestrates various situations, material situations, sometimes happy, sometimes excruciating for his devotees. But does Krishna want us to tolerate it? No. Tolerance is not the principle. As Sugakar Krishna Prabhu said, Anukulyasya sankalpo pratikulyasya varjanam. Do whatever is favorable. Basically, what Krishna wants us to do is to respond in a favorable way to the situation that he has put us. So, for example, because tolerance is a byproduct of detachment. The more detached we are, the more we will be able to tolerate. And detachment is a byproduct of higher attachment. So to the extent that we are attached to Krishna, to that extent we will have detachment. To that extent, to the extent that we have detachment, to that extent we will be able to tolerate. Bhakti pareshanubhavo viraktir anyatra chesha. So tolerance is directly a byproduct of our progress in devotion. So if we are not sufficiently progressed in devotion, we may not be able to sufficiently tolerate certain situations. So in that situation, does Krishna want me to tolerate? No. Krishna wants me to respond in a way that is favorable for my devotional service. If that means to tolerate, we tolerate. If that means to deal with it in a particular way so that our Krishna consciousness is nicely protected, we do it. My hand gets fractured. So if I'm not able to do particular services, we go to the doctor, get it fixed. So we cannot say that, oh, without Krishna's sanction, my hand would not have been fractured. So which means Krishna wants me to tolerate. No. Krishna wants us to respond in a way that is favorable for our Krishna consciousness. So if that means to fix the hand and get back to service, that's what we should do. Or if we can tolerate it and perform the service without any problems, then we can do it. So that is one aspect of your question, which is, and the second aspect is, should we wait for just Krishna to respond? Well, Krishna sometimes may respond by giving us the right intelligence as to how to deal with the problem. Some devotee may come and he may say that, oh, I know this doctor, he solves these issues very easily and very quickly, very efficient doctor when it comes to this, let's say, gallbladder stones. You are struggling with gallbladder stones and waiting that Krishna will come and protect me. No, Krishna is only protecting, right? Krishna has sent this devotee and he has given you direction as to go to this particular doctor. This is Krishna only who has done it. So, therefore, Krishna's personal protection comes through the agency of his devotees also. So we should not that Krishna will personally come and, we hear this story, funny story, not a real story, but where, there is a flood and a person gets stuck up somewhere and he's a devotee and he says, you know what, Krishna will come and protect me, Krishna will come and protect me. And suddenly a boatman comes and he says, get into the boat, I will ferry you, across this river. And then he says, no, Krishna will come and protect me. And he said, okay, fine. And the flood increased and this devotee died. And when he went back, he asked Krishna, why didn't you come and protect me? Krishna said, you fool, I came in the boat. I sent the boatman. Why didn't you get into the boat? And he said, I thought you will come and protect me. So anyways, so we definitely do whatever is needful so that we can properly practice Krishna consciousness. So when Krishna puts us into difficult situations, does Krishna want us to tolerate? Not necessarily. Krishna wants us to respond in a Krishna conscious way. That's all. Sometimes it may mean tolerance. Sometimes it may mean, doing the needful so that we can properly practice Krishna consciousness. I don't know if that was relevant to whatever question you asked, Mother.
Both the answers were perfect, Prabhu, and relevant. Thank you so much for clarifying that. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Ishopanishad, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so
Hare
very much for your wonderful explanation. But my understanding, and this is just my understanding, is that Krishna does not put us in any situations. We are the ones that do that. It comes by our choices that we make. And we're always thinking that Krishna is saying, or Krishna made me do this, or Krishna caused this to happen to me. But my understanding is that we are the cause because we have independence and we have choice. So why do we always say or think that Krishna causes this to happen to us? Because he doesn't wish anything or cause anything bad to happen to us. It's because of ourselves. We're the doers. We're the ones that do that. Although Krishna is responsible for everything, but he's not responsible for our choices that we make.
Yes, I agree. He is not responsible for our response to a situation, but he orchestrates the situations for us, but response is our responsibility. So that definitely is our responsibility. He does not influence us to respond in a particular way, but he may put us in a particular situation, but how to respond to that situation is our own responsibility. Like that. That is my understanding. Okay, there are, I think, okay, I think we will pause here. I think it's already time. I don't wish to go really over time. So thank you all very much for your patient listening and your enthusiastic participation. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for such a beautiful class and very nice question and answer session. Very grateful to you, Prabhuji. We look forward for your association again and again in this forum. I would like to offer my obeisances to you. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyo eva patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah ananta koti vaishnav vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Grace Balaram Shakti Prabhuji ki jai. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Yeah, we will close the call here, dear devotees. Thank you everyone for joining. Hari Bol. Sorry, I think nobody was unable to unmute. Yeah, Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, closing the call.